Awesome, Drew. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'll just introduce you quickly for the people that don't know you yet. So, Drew was a nurse, and she's now a coach. From the very first time that I met Drew, I remember it still to this day. We talked. We were calling each other on the Zoom for a mock call practice, and I remember it was supposed to be like a 20-minute conversation, but I think we talked for at least an hour. And I felt
Long
like
conversation.
really, really good vibes from Drew. So I'm excited to have you guys get to know her.
Yes, thank you so much, Raf. Like, it's so wonderful to be here today. And like what you said, like our conversation, we hit it off really well. And I love to connect with people and everything. And thank you for that introduction. Like you said, I was a nurse. I've been a nurse for two and a little more than 2 years now. And it just wasn't fulfilling. So I just stepped into my role as a spiritual mentor and a manifestation coach, and that's what I do with my clients. So it's great to be here, and I'm super excited to dive into some questions.
Sweet. Perfect. So yeah, Drew, right now what we're experiencing on our end of the business, we have a lot of nurses actually calling in with the whole COVID situation. It seems like a lot of nurses are like dissatisfied either by their work conditions or they just don't have the same philosophy of what's going on. So they're looking to pivot into something else, and a lot of them are potentially interested in coaching. So I guess my first question would be, how has it been for you, the experience like transitioning from a nurse to becoming a coach?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And first of all, I wanted to highlight because I know how that is, like being a nurse and being in the like sometimes just very unsatisfactory working conditions. I feel like we were never really treated like efficiently and effectively that we should by our leadership and our management. And coming from a travel nurse, I would see it all the time, and just nurses were just so dissatisfied. And that was kind of like me. And I decided to pivot and jump into what I'm really, really passionate about, because I feel like nurses, we go into the profession because we want to help people and we want to heal people. So transitioning to coaching was it was very simple, but at the same time, it was a little hard because and I'll tell you why it was simple, because my heart wanted to help and heal and guide people into their fullest potential and their fullest capacity that they're able to be. And that's kind of what I was doing as a nurse already. So I just kind of, I don't know, like I just kind of translated kind of what I was doing in my nursing field and like healing, and also like with what I do as a coach as well. But the only with every change comes just a little bit of a change in identity. So I did have to, I had a lot of authority as a nurse, and I was very comfortable and confident in what I said as a nurse. But then it's like I jumped into my new role as a coach, and I was like, oh, like now I have to build my authority in what I'm speaking about now. So and I want to rephrase that. It wasn't hard. It just took a little bit of time. And with anything new, kind of like riding a bike, it's like, even with us in nursing school, we just had to learn, we had to grow, we had to figure out what it was that we really, really wanted to do, especially with the specialties that we're going into. But then once you're starting to keep like going at it, just get on the bike and start riding it. Sooner or later, you're going to start being like, zipping around town and being able to just jump into your full role and embrace who you are as a coach. And it just takes a little bit of time. But the patience, I had to learn a lot of patience. The patience was something that was hard for me personally at first, is just, I was all set as a nurse. But then it was just like that building that confidence within yourself and really knowing who you are and what you really want to help people with was the main thing that I had to kind of get over, but push through. And ultimately, I've never been more fulfilled.
Awesome. And so, what you just said right here, there's two questions that really just pop into my mind. Is so you mentioned something about identity, and that's something that like a lot of people are struggling with when it comes to transitioning from whatever the job is. Actually, it could be nursing or anything else. To now, hey, I'm a coach, and I'm teaching you now this thing. So, what was the process like for you to do that identity shift? And then the other question I have is the number two thing that a lot of people struggle with when they start is, okay, well, I was X, so I was a nurse, for example. Now I'm a coach, but what am I coaching people on? Like, how did you find out what was your calling when it comes to teaching people?
Yeah, those are excellent questions and very, very good and deep. And I love to go deep. So this is great. I won't go too deep and blow your minds yet. But with that, answering the first question, just with that identity shift, it was a very soul searching process of who am I? What do I want to guide people on? And that identity shift, just the process consisted of just journaling every day and being around people that were very supportive in my decision to be a coach. So the first thing is journaling, finding out exactly what it is you would like to do, what it is you want to do, really looking internally and deciding and making a decision of this is who you are going to be. And it's not like, for me, when I transitioned out of nursing, I burned all my bridges. I'm like, okay, this obviously is a profession that is not meant for me anymore. And I just jumped like 2 feet into coaching. And that really helped with the identity shift because I didn't have 2 feet in both lanes. And it's like, you're going to end up doing the splits if you actually have 1 foot in one side and 1 foot on the other side. So I put both feet in, transitioned to nursing. I was able to, or transitioned to coaching and was able to really, make my money back within the first 2 months of my coaching business of transitioning from nursing. So the process, I guess, just to keep it very simple, was journaling, really finding out, being part of a supportive community to answer all your questions and to really just do some soul searching and finding out exactly what it is you'd like to do, and being very present and intentional with the whole process and being very patient with allowing yourself to seek internally and go internally to find out who are you and what are your gifts and natural talents that you can help bring to another person, help bring and coach another person through. And kind of goes into translate into that other question that you had was like, what do you coach people on? And that whole process goes hand in hand, because once you know more about yourself, you uncover some of the gifts and the natural talents and the natural like ways that you're able to help another person through, and you discover your passions. Essentially, it's like what you're passionate about is something that is going to be able to help other people through whatever they might be going through. A good rule of thumb and that we're taught in BB was you coaching somebody who is about 5 years ago from what you were. So what you were struggling with 5 years ago is your ideal client is who you were 5 years ago, and what they were struggling with, what they were going through, what they needed, what you needed at that time. And so if you could jump back into your shoes of who you really needed to have as a mentor, as a coach, that is going to be what you would coach people on. I started off in health and wellness and then just kind of continued on the journey. And then now I'm, of course, into spirituality and manifestation. But it was a process, it was a journey, and it just continue on that process and just continue on that journey, and then put both feet in and go all the way.
That's really cool. I mean, that's probably really scary for a lot of people to be like, hey, I'm dropping what I do, especially as a nurse. Like, you can earn a good income and boom, you're going into a new direction like that. So if you could tell us, like, what was the process? Like, how did you end up finding business breakthrough, making that decision to plunge? Like, when did you make that decision? And maybe talk a bit about your experience working with business breakthrough.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been listening to Rob. I'm a travel nurse, and I've been travel nursing, or I started travel nursing last year around this time. And I remember being in Miami and I came across Rob's podcast, and I would listen to him every morning. And I was like, okay, yeah, this guy has some good stuff to say. And then when I found out that he had this coaching program where he helped build coaches and through their business and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm all in. So I think I started off with a lot of what our viewers are going through right now is like the 10K coaching workshop. I was in that group and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is incredible. And it really fueled my passion. And it was on my second travel nursing assignment where the more in depth that I got into coaching and to really furthering my passion, the less I was really fired up about my nursing job. It made going into work just absolutely dreadful when I know that I could be so successful. I knew in my soul that I could be very, very successful as a coach. So that process of just jumping from nursing to coaching was very, very simple. I followed my heart. I followed my passion. I just followed what my dreams were to build a business. And I mean, the support that I've gotten from the Business Breakthrough BB community has been astronomical. It's like I've always been kind of like a person that wanted to fit in, but I never really was trying to, like, I would always try to mold my personality with the type of people that I was with. And I was never really felt like I could really share my true self. But the BB community has been like my family. It allows me to express my full authentic self, who I am, in a very non-judgmental container, but as well as pushing me to be the very best version of myself. So like all of you guys who are considering going into BB, so I made some good money and within my 10 weeks, and then now I'm even part of the elite group and the Kaizen group in BB community. And I can just tell you, like, the group of people are just so supportive, and they want your dreams to come true, and they want you to be able to and be compensated accordingly from that. So what Rob has with his program is so efficient, everything that I needed. And I'm so honored and thankful that I've stumbled upon this community. And it's like, this is going to be a family that I'm in for like the rest of my life, I see, because it's just such a good group of people. And one more quote that I'll leave you with, and this is just actually came up, is like you are the product of the people that you hang out around. So me just being literally alone as a travel nurse, not really having a lot of people that were really successful around me and weren't really entrepreneurs or business owners, but being able to be a part of BB and being in that environment, even though it's all virtual, it elevated me to that level of expertise, that a level of authority that I knew I was. So, and that's just one of the greatest gifts that I could have ever asked for on my journey of becoming a coach.
Awesome. And so ever since you have been joining BB, like, what would you say has been your biggest achievement? Since you joined BB.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, if you would have said that, like, because I joined BB like early September, you would have said that I'd be like in the elite group. I've made, one of my biggest accomplishments was I made $14,100 within my first like 13 weeks of being in BB. And that just blew my mind. Like, I didn't know that I was able to do that, especially as a new coach. I, was trying to build my authority as a coach and not from a nurse. I was going through this process, but I didn't know that was actually possible. And I didn't know that I was able to surpass it. I was like, okay, this is going to take time. This might take a couple months or several months or whatever it might be. But with that little time, and then also just like having my dreams just come true with now having, my own like desk area and everything like that is just amazing. And it's just all because of BB and what in the community that we're able to bounce things off of, and the connections that I've made, and really just being so supportive in my dream, my passion, and my journey.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Actually, that's pretty fast. I mean, yeah, that's that will blow some people's mind for sure. So now, that's the last question here. what advice would you give to anyone that is just getting started or struggling with their coaching business right now?
Okay, yes. Okay. If you are just starting, or if you're like struggling with your coaching business, or you're just really on the fence, I would just say, like, follow what your heart is. Like, you know what's right inside, you know what's right internally, and go full force, because ultimately, and this is like, I'm in this very spiritual realm. Your gut has all the answers. It might not make sense. It might not make sense in your mind or your brain, but if you follow your gut, trust the process, really remain present, and trust in yourself, success is going to be given to you. You're going to be able to match that level of success because you're going to be listening to your heart. You're choosing yourself. So I want to invite, one of the last things is, I want to invite you to really look inwardly and make a positive decision that will set you up for the rest of your life, and just do it. Just do it. Like, you could be 1 year down the line of, okay, I wish I would have done this, and now you're getting started, but why not start right now with the resources that you have, with being able to be a part of BB? Like, just jump in and start, and see where it goes, especially if this is something that you're very, very passionate about, and something that you really see yourself doing in the future.
That's amazing. Well, Drue, thank you so much for your time. Do you have one last word, maybe something you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I love to connect with people. So if anybody wanted to reach out to me directly, or have any other questions about transitioning from nursing to coaching, or anything about BB, you could find me on Instagram at Drue Bailey. I love to connect with people on there. Or my Facebook is just Drue Bailey. And yeah, I'd love to connect and help guide this transition, and really create the next world's, like, coaches and people that are just really, really intentional with what they'd like to bring to the world.
Amazing. Thank you, Drue.
Yeah, you're welcome.